I love India. Certainly you can watch this show and think, oh, it's set in, 1530, whatever. But at the end of the day, it could be today. Women globally are still treated as a commodity. Women didn't have power then, and we still don't have kind of much power today. Certainly in the UK, you still couldn't have a mortgage in the 1980s. You couldn't divorce your husband. You couldn't, if you see what I mean? So there are lots of similarities to do with 2022 and the 1530s. And it's pretty sad when we think about it that way. It is very important for me that I get to advocate for people that can't talk for themselves, children that have been abused, or women that have been abused, or vulnerable members of society who don't have a voice. And I think the roles I choose are often characters that therefore give me an opportunity to discuss some of those subject matters.
Hello everyone, I'm Rajani and welcome to Speak Easy. My guest today is extremely talented and she's truly a queen. Right now the Serpent Queen, but I think she's truly the queen. She's done some great work. Let's welcome Samantha Morton to the show. Welcome, Samantha. Welcome to Zoom TV and welcome to India.
Oh, hello. Thank you for having me. Nice to speak to you.
Absolutely. Well, I think one of the most interesting taglines during the trailer was, "It's better to be feared than to be loved," and that is something that the Serpent Queen herself operates from. What do you think of this personally, of this line, and how sometimes, because the situations that women particularly are put in, I think they do have to think like that?
Yeah, I think for Catherine, she has been through an awful lot from being a child, from being an orphan to being in the convent, to being attacked, to being kidnapped, to then being basically a child bride, sent off to France. She was hated in her own country in Italy for being de Medici. Her family name was Mud. And then when she arrives in France, they don't like her because she's Italian. So everybody's trying to kill her. Everybody wants her gone. She's not wanted. And so for Catherine, in the Serpent Queen, we start watching her from a very young child. So we see all these things that happen to her. And then when she's older, you get to kind of see them as she's kind of coming into her own. And I think for Catherine, it is better to be feared because then she's safer that way. Her children are safer that way. Her family is safer that way. And the country is safer that way.
I also feel the parallels that a lot of women actually face is also the lack of choice. It's such an important discussion right now in many countries. Catherine's choices were taken away. And I feel like it draws parallel to a lot of women who face that, where decisions are made for yourself. And I feel it's such an important story. A lot of women actually are going to feel, will also empathize, even though, she had to do some horrible things. I feel like there is that one part that a lot of people will relate to. What do you think about that, Samantha?
Well, I think that you're right. I think that, certainly you can watch this show and think, oh, it's set in, 1530, whatever. But at the end of the day, it could be today. Women globally are still treated as a commodity. She, at 14, she's, has to, on her wedding night, everybody's watching and she has to fall pregnant immediately to produce an heir. These pressures are still on women globally. And I think that, so whilst it's a period piece, it is a true story as far as we can tell. Obviously, history is often written by men. But we have a situation where, we have enough information about her to maybe gauge this, there's some truth in there. Women didn't have power then, and we still don't have kind of much power today. Certainly in the UK, you still couldn't have a mortgage in the 1980s. You couldn't divorce your husband. You couldn't, if you see what I mean? So there are lots of similarities to do with 2022 and the 1530s. And it's pretty sad when we think about it that way.
Can we talk about abortion rights? It's happening everywhere. I feel like it's a relevant story, right?
Yeah, and I feel very, very proud that Stars are making such a show, a huge American TV company, that are highlighting the exploitation of women and how women don't have a voice and women have to fight to be heard, and it's a constant struggle.
Samantha, like I said in the beginning, a lot of people will find empathy because they know why she's doing the decisions, but it's also a very interesting character because it's gray. she's making those tough decisions. She's become hard and fearing to, she's obviously protecting people around her, herself, and she's taking some really, really heinous decisions. How did you find that balance, as someone who's playing as an actor? How did you find that balance to sort of see and detach yourself, maybe, because, morally, I think, more so?
I think everything, the tagline in the show is, tell me what you would have done differently. And I think what is brilliant about Justin Haythe, who is the showrunner, writer, producer extraordinaire, and director, is that he really, really wasn't afraid to show how brutal life was. And the choices she had to make weren't choices that any of us would ever want to make, but we kind of have to make. And I don't want to give away any spoilers either. So it's hard for me to answer the question as coherently as I'd like to, because if I do, then I'm kind of giving away certain plot points to later episodes. But yeah, morally, I think that she's just somebody who follows her instincts and follows her heart, but ultimately feels that she has a calling. And that's a very powerful thing.
And is that something you could relate to as a person, as who you are, Samantha? Because you're someone who's an activist and an actor. And I think some way, that's important for you to stand up for your own self.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is very important for me that I get to advocate for people that can't talk for themselves, children that have been abused, or women that have been abused, or vulnerable members of society who don't have a voice. And I think the roles I choose are often characters that therefore give me an opportunity to discuss some of those subject matters. They have a social message inherent in them. But I do feel that The Serpent Queen is very modern in that way as well. It's a costume drama. It's very beautiful. The costumes designed by Karen Muller-Serow are just extraordinary. And Jaquetta Levin, who did the hair and makeup, incredible, amazing actors that I got to work with. Liv Hill being extraordinary standout as young Catherine. But we still wanted to make it so that the audiences could identify with her and with these people, that they didn't feel that it was so distant,
Thank you so much, Samantha. Looks like a very powerful show. And hopefully we can do this in person if you hope visit India, and we can have a longer chat at that time. I hope you come to visit our country someday.
Oh, I love India. I've been to India many times, but one day I'll be back.
One day you'll be back. Thank you so much. Sending you lots of love from here. And namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye, Samantha.